Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you guys from SethTheProgrammer. This one talking about something that I really love, or more specifically a series that I really love, Ben 10. I absolutely love this series. To me, the classic is still my favorite out of all of them. I know that's kind of shocking, but how many times have you heard that? But I also really love Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. I don't love them as much as the classic, and I think that Ultimate Alien is not as good as Alien Force, if I'm being honest. But also, Ultimate Alien has some of my favorite moments. I love this series, and I kind of stopped when Omniverse rolled around. Like I wasn't really a big fan of the look, and I also didn't like that they separated Ben from Gwen and Kevin. I really like that dynamic, and the fact that they separated them. I honestly don't know why they did that. Maybe they just wanted to do something different, but for me personally, like that was just a perfect dynamic, and splitting them up to me, I thought was just a big mistake. And I didn't even watch the 2006. I had no interest. I've seen some clips, on YouTube, but other than that, I don't think I ever actually sat down to watch a whole episode. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on Ben 10, and I'm really interested to watch this video with you guys and get your thoughts on this and why Alien X is apparently stronger than you think. And this time they're bringing in Kuro the artist, who, if you don't know, is someone who knows way more about Ben 10 than I do. So, and I do believe he also has a YouTube channel. So go follow him, go subscribe to him. I'll leave a link to both of their channels in the description box of this video, and a link to the actual video itself, so you can go watch it. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and watch this video. I've kept you guys waiting long enough. The intro was, yeah. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
But he's not.
No, okay, yeah. Sorry, I can't have music. I'm sorry. Even if it's not copyrighted music, YouTube will always, the bots will catch it. So, just is it? Okay, yeah, there's still music. So let's just. I don't know if there's. Oh, okay, there's some music. Let's see. I don't know when. Is it over now?
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Seth the Programmer, and with me today I have the good old hermano, Chuck the Cybercuck. How's it going?
What's up, boys? We back here again.
And we have a surprise guest with us today, Kuro the artist. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So me and Kuro, we were going to debate on. We were in Twitter DM, and he's like, maybe we should have like a live debate. I think you even made a tweet about it, and you had like a poll, like, should I debate Seth? And we've talked a few times. And he was in my Discord, and he was talking to my members about Ben 10. I'm like, Kuro, get in VC, let's talk. And so we started talking, and I wanted to break down his logic on Ben 10, and it kind of came down to Alien X isn't as strong as Kuro thought, but at the same time, he's way stronger than I thought, and what a lot of most people in the Versus community thought, right? So we kind of came to like this middleman agreement. And we're just like, let's just collab. Like, let's actually just spit the truth on this matter. So, without further ado, let's break down like why, Ben 10 isn't omnipotent first of all. And Kuro, I think you can touch up on this the best.
Yeah. So the main reason why I was trying to back up that argument is because characters inside of the show would literally say the word omnipotent and be like, Alien X is omnipotent. If Agrigor absorbed a celestial sapien, he'd be omnipotent. So that was the basis I was going off of. And me, before this video happened, I was like completely oblivious to like the entire like debate community. And when you did that response video, it kind of just like explained a little bit better that it's omnipotence in relevance to the show rather than omnipotence as like its literal definition. And Chuck was bringing up a bunch of different characters that like was like true omnipotence for examples, just to like sort of compare and contrast the abilities that Alien X has and the abilities that these omnipotent beings have. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So what I brought up to kind of debunk the whole point, you can say names better, but basically what I said is they just said that Alien X was omnipotent in the show, but omnipotent has two different stigmas and definitions. So there's such thing as like true omnipotence.
Right.
There's actual omnipotence. Well, not actual, but just omnipotence. And then there's omnipotence that can just mean great power. So for example, in Marvel.
Yeah, that's actually very true, because there's a lot of series where they have characters say that, oh, I'm omnipotent, I'm all powerful, but you end up realizing slowly that, oh, they're just talking about the fact that they have like a lot of power and they're really really strong and they're not actually omnipotent. So it's mostly just to hype up the character.
They even have a guide that says this. It's like, oh, the Living Tribunal, even some forms of Thanos are stated omnipotent, but it's not really saying they're actually omnipotent,
No.
just that they're super, super powerful.
Yeah.
And the way I followed this up,
By the way, this was actually a very very good comic if you haven't read this. I think it was called Thanos Wins, if I remember correctly, where it shows you a future where Thanos just brutalizes everyone, and it's it's insane. I mean, this guy literally goes up against everyone and just murders them. Like Galactus, look, you've even got the Living Tribunal, which people thought were almost unstoppable. And in case you want to know how powerful they are, in one of the comics, the Living Tribunal shuts off the Infinity Stones. Like how powerful they are, they just shut them off and say, nope, these don't work anymore. That's how powerful they are. And these are the Celestials, of course. You probably heard of them. And he just, I won't say what he does here to to defeat them, but it's actually pretty smart when you think about it. And also, this version of Thanos keeps the Hulk as a pet. Think about that. He keeps the Hulk as a pet. Seriously, if you have the chance, go read this comic. It's pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of the few comics from the modern era that I think are actually well worth reading.
with is there's a being even within the own Omnitrix that's supposed to be stronger than Alien X, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The writers confirmed that Alien X isn't even the strongest alien in the
See, there you go.
Omnitrix.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then there's a being that's even like above the Omnitrix itself or something like
Yeah,
that.
there's at least 3 contenders of who can be stronger than Alien X. One being they appeared in one episode called the Nalgians. They didn't really go
I
into
remember
detail
this
what they were. All they
episode.
said was like they were aware of like at least 26 different dimensions. That Ben wouldn't even be able to comprehend the world they're from. They like visit the lower tier dimensions for fun. They have a children's toy that's able to take out a universe. The second is the Quantumalia, the creators of their own universe. They're fifth dimensional, at least. They have fifth dimensional forms that can't be.
Also, in case you're wondering, when he's talking about the Quantumalia, he's talking about these guys in particular, not these guys. These are known as Chronosapiens, by the way. Just in case you were confused.
Fifth dimensional, at least. They have fifth dimensional forms that can't be perceived by their eyes. So
Yeah, sorry, just wanted to talk about this for a second. One of the reasons why I'm not really a fan of Omniverse is because they sort of went the more comedic route. And not that Ben 10 didn't have its comedic moments, it did, but it's one of those shows that had a perfect balance of comedy and drama. You know what I mean? But with Omniverse, it felt like they just focused more on the comedic elements and not so much on the drama. And this is one of them. So when they were visiting the oh god, what were their names? Go back. I don't know why I forgot their names.
at least they have fifth dimensional.
Sorry, go back a sec. Just want to.
They're fifth dimensional. At least they. Second is the Quantumalia, the creators.
The Quantumalia, yeah. That's their name. The Quantumalia. So when they were visiting them, remember how we talked about they're fifth dimensional at least, and they have forms that can't be comprehended by I guess our minds. And instead they said that we take forms that basically help you be able to comprehend as something that you're familiar with. And I think Rook, if I remember correctly, he saw someone that was close to him. I can't remember if it was his dad or someone else. So you would think that with Ben, he would probably see, maybe he would see his grandpa, maybe he would see his dad, his mom, his cousin Gwen, just someone, his friend Kevin. Anyone? No. Instead, or his girlfriend. I think she wasn't his girlfriend at the time, but they do end up together. I think it was Kai. Yeah, Kai Green, if I remember correctly. You'd think he would see her, but no. He sees a fucking smoothie cup, and it's just, oh boy. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of Omniverse, because again, like I said, they chose to move into the more comedic route even before the 2016 version came out, and it's just. It sucks because Omniverse does have some cool concepts, but I don't know why they chose to do this. It's whatever.
Their eyes, so they perceive them as like different avatars and perceptions. So the third is the Dagon, which is the main antagonist of the end of the third.
Basically
series
their
of
version of
Alien. He's
Cthulhu.
basically a demon made of living energy, and he has control over
Sorry,
magic.
there's
and his
some
own
music in the
religious
background. Gotta
following.
lower the volume.
He's multidimensional and all of that. So those are the top 3 contenders that could possibly be the alien in the Omnitrix that is stronger than Alien X.
Yeah, for sure. We also had a small debate or discussion. It was kind of like on whether or not Ben 10 could be erased from existence, because we did have a small textual debate as well when we were still making videos. And it was like, we kind of came down to like Cosmic Armor Superman versus Alien X. And it kind of came down to like, could Cosmic Armor, remove Alien X from existence just because he's a higher dimensional tier? And the response that came to when we were in VC was that...
So, I do wonder whether or not this is going to get me hit for copyright. I think I should be fine, because they are talking over, so it should technically fall under commentary, but, YouTube. So, here's hoping for the best.
Ben 10 can be erased from existence because it's happened before. Like with the Chrono Sapien time bomb, it literally removed every single Ben 10 from existence. So that was my general point on that. But Chuck, why don't you explain in detail what true omnipotence really is?
As Kuro said, there's characters that have been called omnipotent, but there's a difference between being actually omnipotent and being used to mean great power. So, for example, in DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and Dragon Ball Z, there's been characters that have been stated omnipotent. For example, Odin, he's been stated omnipotent. There's been Galactus, there's been Darkseid, and even Buhan in the manga. He even stated that he wanted to celebrate his omnipotence. So these characters are basically boasting about their great power, but doesn't mean that they are actually omnipotent, like a character that we've seen are way higher than they are. So in DC Comics, there's a Presence who is one of the strongest characters, but he's not truly omnipotent, if that makes any sense. There's characters like the Rider and the Overmonitor. So the Overmonitor is like the canvas that is used to actually write or draw on the comics themselves, and the Rider is the one who actually portrays a story on there, and they stand above the Presence. And if you go by Marvel, there's the One Above All, who stands above all the abstracts like the Living Tribunal or the Celestials, Infinity, Death, stuff like that. And these guys stand even above Galactus or Odin, who are, quote-unquote omnipotent, but they're really not. And in Dragon Ball Z, well, people think that Tori Bot is probably the omnipotent
We should be okay.
Some people think he's not, though.
In Zeno, he's the strongest.
Yeah, Zeno's not
so
omnipotent.
Series,
he's not.
But he's not omnipotent. And that has to do mostly with, are they affected by time in a sense that there's many versions of them? You can't have more than one omnipotent in a verse.
Well, I would just bring up that Zeno is within someone else's story. So him being for example, the writer from DC is technically omnipotent in DC, whereas Zeno is bound by the author and editor's will. So technically, you can't be true omnipotent.
Now, the point is that what it really means to be truly omnipotent is that you have no limitations and you cannot be defeated whatsoever. That's why the DC versus Marvel debates are really, it really comes down to a stalemate, because it's basically like playing chess, right? You have two kings.
They can't beat each other at all. Yeah, they're just stalemate.
If you look at characters that are actually omnipotent, they have control over the whole realm of existence. They have no limitations. They cannot be defeated. And you could also say that they're infinite dimensional. If not, they aren't even bound by dimensions at all, and they're actually outerversal, which means that they exist outside of all of existence. There's characters that are like that, like Cosmic Armor Superman, who stands above the whole limbo or the multiverse, but even he is not omnipotent, or he's not even the strongest one.
He's strong, but he's not omnipotent.
He's still limited by the Overmonitor.
There's a lot more things that determine what omnipotence is, and dimensional tiering goes along with that, and also, all these characters that have been stated, that is usually hyperbole, which is what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual topic of the video now, why he's stronger than people think. Because, as now, we're just kind of, nerfing him down from omnipotence.
They're kind of downplaying him.
We're here to talk about why he's stronger, and
because he's still pretty damn strong, don't get me wrong.
In fictional debates is people, when they talk about Alien X, they usually say, well, he's Universal Plus. And, I was one of those people. I was one of those, cunts, right? Well, he recreated a universe, and he survived, with no time.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of different features that come into play when talking about Celestial Sapiens. For one, It's fairly obvious, like, Ben 10 has had many iterations of the show, despite
Yep.
it being the same continuity, but every iteration would have a different subtitle. The art style would change, the voice actors would change and everything, and it was always just...
Okay, so this is very, very funny. So, I told you I'm not a big fan of Omniverse, but there's, like I said, it has good concepts, and this is something that I do like, because the second I heard about this, I think I remember someone mentioning it in passing, and I can't remember where it was. I think it was in some video that I watched where they brought this up. So I thought, okay, let me look this up, and I actually watched the episode, and they're talking about how Ben is apparently being put on trial because he was meddling with time or whatever. He restarted a universe and so on and so forth. And the person defending him, who I think is another Galvan, if I remember correctly. I know the planet they're from is Galvan. I think it was Galvan Prime, if I remember correctly, and they're called Galvans. Again, it's been a minute. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong. He talks about how, like, basically his argument is against the people who are putting him on trial. Is, why are you putting him on trial for affecting the universe when you guys are known for doing this all the time? And he says, well, even the Omnitrix creator, Azimuth, went through multiple different changes, and his appearance and voice changes all the time. And I think, if I remember correctly, this is how he looked like originally, or I think it was this. And then it was changed to this, and now he looks like this. And it's basically like this kind of meta joke where, to explain why characters look different than they used to, because Celestial Sapiens were messing around and basically ended up changing things. So yeah, I really found this funny.
Just kind of like written off as like, you should just understand the fact that it's the same show, it's the same timeline, and just kind of ignore it. But then, the episode where Ben finally gained control over Alien X and doesn't have to worry about Serena or Bellicus, it's discovered that Celestial Sapiens are the reason the art style and the voice actors and everything in the show keeps changing. Every time there's a continuity error, or anything, like, it's always like the work of Celestial Sapiens.
Celestial Sapiens change the universe all the time.
Yep.
Like, even
Sorry, I just gotta pause it for a sec, because again, footage, gotta be careful.
First Thinker Azimuth's voice and appearance has changed on at least 3 occasions.
Yep, see,
Like,
there it is.
For instance, like with the 4th series, like Omniverse, it literally
Oh, and
applied...
speaking of art style changes, I gotta admit, what they did to Paragus here, not a big fan of it. Not a big fan of this look. Yeah, just... I really liked his original look, where it was simple. It was just him in a lab coat, just looking like a scientist, basically the same as he did before he had his accident. Just not really a big fan of this, if I'm being honest.
Like, there's an entire omniverse. Like, there's like infinite dimensions, infinite like parallel universes and everything, and those are like constantly being rewritten because the Celestial Sapiens are outside of the multiverse in this sort of pocket dimension called the Forge of Creation, which is inaccessible to anybody who is either not a Celestial Sapien or doesn't have the Map of Infinity, which is this whole other thing. And then there was this recent author statement by Duncan Rouleau, one of the creators of Ben 10 and 1/4 of Man of Action, that stated that all the different versions of Ben share the same timeline and DNA in the Omnitrix, making Alien X the same. Beings existing outside of time and space are simultaneously everywhere and nowhere at the same time, like Schrodinger's cat. As to which one they'd help depends on who activates first. So this was actually a recent statement that was discovered after all 4 of our videos were made. So basically, instead of the multiple versions of Ben becoming their own version of Alien X, thus creating multiple versions of Alien X, every version of Ben is always using the same version of Alien X. He's just one guy. And he's just switching between different Omnitrixes for whoever needs him at that given moment.
So there's not multiple versions of that one Alien X?
There's not. That one Alien X is just is just like that Alien X.
Right, so there's not multiple versions, and he's above the concept of time. Now, when it comes to omniverses is a little bit weird because I feel like every fiction has its own definition of what an omniverse is. So, for instance, I don't know if this is Marvel or if it's DC, but basically an omniverse in Marvel or DC can possibly include other like corporations and franchises. So, for instance, I believe Ben 10 might be affiliated with DC a little bit. I don't know. You might be able to fill me in on that. But even if it's not directly linked, it might be like a megaverse or a multiverse within the DC's omniverse, right?
No, I was just gonna say they do kind of correlate in the ways that the original crew Man of Action were brought on. They've all came from stems of writing for comics like Deadpool, the Justice League, and everything. Then with the second series from Alien Force onward, with the showrunner Dwayne McDuffie, he was brought on specifically because he created Static Shock. He wrote for Justice League Unlimited and all of that. So it shares a lot of same properties with DC. One of the definitive things that keeps it at least outside of the same DC, of the main DC timeline, but could still potentially, like, DC exists in the multiverse and Ben can, like, go visit Superman or anything, is the fact that the Plumbers existing, which is, like, for those that don't know, is this intergalactic police force, existing at the same time as the Green Lantern Corps. Like, there's no way they wouldn't have interacted by now. So that at least, like, separates their universes, but they can potentially be contained in the same multiverse or omniverse.
Yeah, for sure. And for example, what I mean by other franchises, there's like a scene where Booster Gold is with Superman, and they're talking to like this AI, and basically Booster Gold suggests that there's a...
By the way, in case anyone wants to know where this is from, just look up Action Comics. You'll find it there.
There's an AI called Jarvis from another timeline, and Jarvis is quite clearly talking about like Marvel's Jarvis, you know, with like Iron Man. So there are, you know, distinctions like that. So saying he's like true omniversal or something might be a little bit out there, but it could be a possibility. But what we're basically saying though is that Alien X, he's outside of time, completely unaffected by time, and he rewrote an entire multiversal, possibly plus entity and beyond. So saying he's universal plus, like most of these fictional, you know, sites or debates say, is actually wrong. That's what we're generally trying to get at here. Chuck, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, so a thing that like people seem to misunderstand about the the whole debating thing was our point wasn't to shit on Alien X. We weren't trying to say that he was weak or something. We even said in the first video, look, he's at least universal plus because he can recreate an entire universe, right? Although not perfectly.
Yeah, I don't think he's weak.
Kura himself even showed that not everything was perfectly the same, right?
When Ben recreated the universe just flat out, there was a lot of different changes, which puts into question how much actual control he has over his abilities, because when the universe was being destroyed, he actually questioned it. He was like, wait, the universe really is being destroyed, as if it was literally happening and he had no idea, yet he was able to survive.
Okay, so something that does kind of not really make a lot of sense here with me is that, so you have him transforming into this version, which, by the way, I hate this version of Ben 10,000. It's just all the versions of Ben 10,000 after the original was just they somehow got progressively lamer. I don't know how, but that's neither here nor there. So the thing that doesn't make sense to me is they just got done establishing that celestial sapiens exist outside of time, and yet somehow here
he actually questioned it. He was like,
see, he turns into a version of Alien X. Now, in case anyone was wondering what the hell's going on here, so in the Omnitrix with him in the future, this version of Ben 10,000, he found a way to mix multiple different aliens into one transformation. Like you see Alien X with another version. I don't know what alien he was using here. It's been a minute since I've seen this episode.
Wait, the universe really
but
is being destroyed?
He's using Alien X, right? And he's going up against a chronosapien who have the ability to stop and start time. So the thing that
literally happening
doesn't really make a lot of sense is you can see here he stops time, moves out of the way.
So that was like an automatic thing.
And then manages to move in front of him real quick. So that's what doesn't make any sense to me. It's like you said that he's not, they proved that he's not affected by time, and in here he's being affected by time. Do you see what I mean? It's like, I don't know if this was a case of the writers sort of realizing that realistically this enemy shouldn't actually be able to do anything against him, because he's not affected by time. So they thought, okay, well, let's just kind of conveniently forget that little factoid that we introduced into our world. So I don't know, just nothing about this really made any sense to me.
And then when he's creating the entire universe, and everything in it, it's like, did he have to think about every single specific thing, or was it just like an automatic reset? Because in a couple seasons later, when he's put on trial for like illegally recreating the universe, he mentions that he couldn't get like his favorite flavor smoothie right, which sort of implies that that was a decision he had to make, which like questions like, if somebody had a secret that he never told Ben and Ben recreated the universe, does that secret still exist? Did he have to think about all of physics? Did he have to think about each individual person, people he hasn't even met? So are some of his abilities like automatic to the point where like, say if like he was in a battle with Jiren and he just said the words restrain Jiren without needing like any detail, like what would happen? Like would something just automatically suffice? And one thing while I'm at this tangent that I want to clear up, that a lot of people have misconceptions about Ben, is they think of Ben and they assume like he has a time limit on the Omnitrix. He's still 10 years old. He can only be one alien at a time. And I've been trying to stress this point, but not only does he not have a time limit, he can switch from alien to alien, and he's not 10 years old anymore. But when he mastered Alien X, he doesn't have to go through the decision-making process.
He's 16 by the time he's in Omniverse. What do they mean he is not? He's still 10.
X, and not for a single second is he frozen in time. He's constantly moving. He's constantly doing things. Like, pretty much like explaining like he can really use this form to his full potential now. He's not going to time out. He doesn't have to debate, and he really like has like a sense of how it works at that point.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, because Alien X is above time, if he just made all those decisions instantly, because he may have infinite speed if he's above time itself. That's usually how people, correlate it. So if you're not bound by time, you usually have infinite stats. Isn't that right, Chuck? So for example, like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, there's a Gold Experience Requiem, who has infinite speed because he can move in like a universal time stop or something like that, so he can move without time. So
it's pretty damn OP.
So yeah, so basically, if Alien X had infinite time, he could definitely make all those decisions. But you could also argue that he didn't just sit there for like a long period of time, thinking every detail in the universe. You could also think that he just has insane intelligence while he's in that state.
Yeah, I could see how that's happening, because there's seems to be like two different like versions of how he uses abilities. One where like the very first time he ever transformed into him he did something, and then later on they have a scene saying like, we already gave you a break. So he transformed into Alien X.
Right.
They had a discussion. He explained how the powers work all within like half a second, and then there's like points where he was like frozen in time as if things were passing in real time. But once he was able to gain control of it, it's pretty much like anything he does inside of there does not matter until it's like physically put into like motion or anything. So like whether it's like hyper intelligence or hyper speed, either way it's perceived, there doesn't really seem to be a limit to what, not like a limit to his abilities, but there's no limit to that's like
shown.
Yeah.
So we went on like a tirade about like, oh well, Ben 10's not omnipotent, but then we just said he had infinite speed. So it's like, what does that exactly mean? And Chuck was trying to ask me earlier, you should probably go on a little bit about dimensional tiering, and I think it's important because we talked about why Alien X isn't the absolute strongest in fiction and why he's not the weakest in fiction, but where exactly is he, right? So I think the best way to go over this is we need to kind of like discuss the Chrono Sapien time bomb. So why don't you explain what the Chrono Sapien time bomb is actually capable of?
Okay, so the Chrono Sapien time bomb was programmed to destroy every single universe except for the one it was in,
which is a multiverse plus.
So it technically destroyed like an infinite amount of things except for that one universe, but through like a series of events.
Okay, I don't know if because there's a lot of footage. I don't know if I'm gonna be okay here.
By one of his aliens, Clockwork, nonetheless Alien X. And it's hard for me to accept that the time bomb is like a definitive
limit.
Yeah, because like for instance, there's an alien he has named Chromosome.
Sorry,
he first shows up. The very first thing he does is he's invulnerable to electricity.
Right.
So
See?
he gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
There's Terraspin, who's invincible to mana.
Yeah, see, again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you show this character being capable of doing this, and then later on they get affected by. You show a character being unaffected by this one thing, and then later on you show this character being affected by that same thing, and you're left there wondering, wait, but I thought you said this doesn't affect them. And it plays into what I said with Alien X. You said they show that he's above time, and yet later on he gets affected by time. You see what I mean?
which is basically this universe's ki or chakra or internal energy,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And he was fighting a mana user, and he got affected by it. And like when this was brought up to the writers, they claimed like Ben wasn't concentrating, like he needs to activate this
Yeah,
natural
no.
vulnerability or something. They were probably just pulling this out of their ass.
Yeah, I think that's what's
But
happening.
with the way that this type of logic applies to the series, it could say that like either A, Alien X could have just activated some type of invulnerability to the time bomb, or B, since Paradox survived by escaping to a pocket dimension, had Ben known what he was dealing with was a
But see, the thing that doesn't, just want to comment on what they said about how he has to like personally activate that invulnerability to time. You would think that he would have done that if that's the case. I mean, if he's seeing this happen to him, why wouldn't he just instinct? Because you know how sometimes we do things on instinct. You would think that when he's Alien X, he would just instinctively activate that defense against the time bomb. Instead, that's not what happened.
time bomb. He could have just shielded himself in a pocket dimension and popped right back out.
Yeah.
I think the only reason he was defeated was he had absolutely no idea what a time bomb was, therefore he couldn't make a decision.
Yeah, so really one of the main weaknesses of Alien X is kind of like a Goku thing. A little bit different though. It's like if he's just off guard or has no knowledge of it, it could catch him off guard or by surprise. But that shouldn't be used to limit him. By this logic, we could limit Super Saiyan Blue Goku to laser level, like from the movies, or we could limit him to laser level in his base form, or etc. Or even that he got scraped by a bullet, yeah, in the Dragon Ball Super. And off-guard feats or not fully there feats shouldn't be used to describe a limitation, for sure. I definitely agree with that. And like we said before, he rewrote possibly the entire multiverse that this bomb is destroying. So it's like, I have no idea, how strong this bomb would really be capable of to, overpower that. But as the writer said, it's more than likely he just wasn't concentrating completely. So, Chuck, why don't we go into a little bit more detail about what this exactly means for, Alien X and where we should kind of place him as, a generosity or, even like a low ball.
Yeah, so I was actually discussing this earlier, and there's actually a vast difference between like hacks or abilities and raw power. And sometimes in comics or even Dragon Ball, we know that some hacks can be like overpowered, if someone's stronger than you. Like for example, Hit, he wasn't able to do anything against Jiren because he was way stronger than him, and that's why his hacks proved to be really futile. But there are some abilities that can like overcome, the raw power limitations of a character, like with the Mafuba, which Master Roshi was able to use on Frost, and he was gonna use it on Vegeta, and it even worked on Vegeta, who are way stronger than he is. But the thing is, when you go into reality warping, there's different levels of that. And for example, let's just bring up Janemba, because he's like really the only reality warper in the series. That. And
By the way, I want to test your comic knowledge. Let me know in the comments if you know who this is. I'm not going to say it, but I want to ask you guys the question. In the comment section, let me know who this is without looking it up. Without looking it up, who is this? A little test for you guys.
for example, let's just bring up Janemba, because he's like really the only reality warper in the series. Going with non-canon, but
At least in Dragon Ball, yeah.
in Dragon Ball. So in terms of range, he's able to manipulate like the macrocosm. But in terms of raw power, if you compare him to like Jiren or Beerus or Super Saiyan Blue Vegito, he would be completely outclassed.
Oh yeah,
He wouldn't
he'd be
able to do anything
destroyed.
to them because these characters are way beyond universal, and I mean Janemba is just like no match for that at all. He does have multi-universal range with his hacks, but in terms of raw power, he isn't powerful enough to even defeat Gogeta. Or Gogeta.
Gogeta.
Gogeta. So like he wasn't able to defeat Gogeta, and they're like nothing comparable to like the god tiers of Dragon Ball Super.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is that I mean, if he was able to like change all of that in the multiverse, then you could say he has, reality warping range or, a scale on those multiversal levels very easily, and I would agree with that. However, it does not necessarily mean that he has the destructive capacity, to destroy like, infinite multiverses or stuff like that, right?
It's still him rewriting those universes though. He's still changing them and their properties entirely. So it's still like multiversal range. Yeah, and it should somewhat correlate to destructive power a little bit because he is recreating all of that time-space as well. Well, I don't know if he's recreating the time-space. That might actually be a different one. Recreating the actual time-space, but he is like redrawing it. I don't know how you redraw space itself, but if you are redrawing the space itself, you would be technically drawing the time interwoven into it, which would be very strange, but
I actually have a really good example. So let's say you have like a vase and it breaks, right? And then you try to fix it with super glue or whatever the fuck. So you basically like recover the majority of the vase, but it isn't like perfectly like as it was. Instead of, just destroying it entirely or creating an entire new one, right? What Alien X did, he kind of basically repaired the vase. He didn't like, destroy it altogether or create a new one altogether. Which actually goes into the whole thing about, how he recreated the universe, but it wasn't perfect, right? There was still some things that weren't originally there from the before it was destroyed. The matter of the fact is, it is very clear that he would have multiversal ranges of reality warping, and as I said, destructive capacity is definitely a lot more debatable. But yeah, like definitely he would he would be very powerful in that regard. And the whole thing about the fifth dimension and stuff like that, dimensional tiering, infinities beyond infinity. Like if you look into Marvel, there's characters that, they have a higher set of infinity, meaning they're, infinitely more powerful than another one, which is why, for example, if you compare the Living Tribunal to, like, Eternity, or the Beyonder to Living Tribunal, they are all, like, really damn powerful, but, they're still one above the other. Yeah, so yeah, Seth, I'm pretty sure you can, give a really good detailed explanation on the dimensional tiering.
so what I'm going to subscribe for Alien X here is I'm pretty sure he's going to fall under about a fifth dimensional entity. The reason I say this is because it goes a little something like this in versus algorithms. So you have, the normal 3D beings, which would basically be most of fiction. And then you have beings that are infinite 3D, can destroy infinite 3D matter, blah, blah, blah. And then you have beings that, go beyond that can destroy infinite 3D and its space-time from existence, which would be more like the 4D range. Then you have beings that can destroy infinite infinities of 4D universes and that are beyond the concept of time itself. In a versus algorithm, this would more than likely be fifth dimensional, right? And Alien X, who is beyond time, beyond infinite infinities, would more than likely fall under a fifth dimensional entity. Now, a dimensional tier in fiction is a little bit something like, infinities being greater than each other. So, for example, if you said 1 plus 2 plus 3 onto infinity, and then you had 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 onto infinity, the 1.1, the one that has the, the 0.1s in it, would be greater than if you just did a singular number onto infinity. So this is how levels of infinity work, but it's a little bit different because it's adding an extra dimension to the calculation that one doesn't have, making it infinitely greater than the other infinity. Appealing to actual math in reality to debunk a concept in fiction that is used is illogical. It's called an appeal to reality fallacy that me and Chuck coined, by the way. TM. Fiction does use this logic. There's actually a Marvel scan that uses the same exact quotes I just did. And just because if you agree, oh, well, every infinity is the same in reality, doesn't mean that's how it works in fiction.
Yeah.
At all. And if the authors of that story who are omnipotent over their story want it that way, that's how it's just going to be. So the entire argument is just dumb anyway. Other than that, Kuro, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, we're also doing a collab together on my channel with Just the Robot. You can go check that out, where Seth and Just a Robot review the first 5 chapters of my webcomic 5 years later. And I also want to say that in the end, I am not a debater, and I do not feel the need to elaborate on any of this further. I really hope this video puts an end to it. I agree with a lot of your points, and I love the fact that you guys agree with mine. and the fact that we're able to finally put this to rest.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't bring up any more questions. And
It will. It will.
Probably will,
It
though.
definitely
You
will.
know, like-
Yeah,
that's just.
probably will.
but I mean, at least we're
That's
able
just
to,
not
like,
how the
talk this
internet
out
works.
and
Sorry,
not just,
guys.
Like, say we're going to and then completely ignore it.
Sure.
Like your previous Dragon Ball community video, which was pretty interesting. If you guys haven't checked that out, you should check it out. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and also thank you for Kuro for making me that diva Goku Black.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
pretty,
awesome.
pretty damn badass. But yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyways, guys, so Alien X is an omnipotent. He's not universal. He's just way stronger than people thought. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and till next time.
Peace out, thoughts.
Okay, so there it is. That's the video. Now, as they said, Alien X pretty damn strong, but I also like that they clarified that he's not as strong as a lot of people thought he is. But you know, they they pretty much brought it up at the end. Even if you try to convince people, there's going to be people out there who are just who are not going to listen. They're because they have their own opinion, which is fine, but it just you have to realize that at some point there's just no point debating them, because you can try to, like I said, show them actual evidence from the series, some things that even the author has said. Doesn't matter, they still aren't going to change their minds. But anyway, that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to do all the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe. You know what to do, especially subscribe to help me get to 1,000 before the end of the year. That is my goal, 1,000 subs before the end of the year. Sorry if you can hear that in the background at the end, but it's near the end of the video. It doesn't matter. With that being said, guys, like I said, go check out both of their channels. I'll leave the link to both of them in the description box down below, and I hope to see you for the next video. Bye for now.